Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Altitude Adjustment. Now, before we get started, you might notice that Patrick Chiotti is not here. He's busy with family matters. But Patrick was kind enough to write me a statement that he wanted me to read. Obviously, I've been getting a little bit overly emotional about all of the Bo Nix discord that's been going on. So, in an attempt to calm me down and to kind of clear the air, Pat has written a prepared statement for me to read. Okay, let me just pull it up here. All right. I state your name, do
Whoa,
solemnly
whoa, whoa,
swear.
whoa, 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 whoa. Did you just say state your name?
That's
I
what it,
state your name?
that's what it says. That's what Pat wrote me.
Dude, you're not supposed to say state your name. You're supposed to say your name.
That makes sense. Apparently, I'm an idiot. Just a big, dumb idiot.
Hey, Bill, I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a stick up.
That's right, boys and girls. Ryan freaking Edwards is joining me. And can you believe it? One of us is not wearing flannel.
I know.
And that person is Ryan Edwards. I dress to impress. And Ryan decides to wear his sexy shirt to out sexy me. Ryan, what's up, man? Good to see you.
It's good to see you too, brother. And yeah, I feel pretty underdressed right now. I let my wife pick out my shirt today to change it up a little bit, as a kept man. And so I decided not to wear flannel, and now I feel vastly underdressed. And boy, listen, if there's anybody that could pull it off much better than me, it is absolutely you, my friend.
Well, and let's just call a spade, Ryan. Obviously, nobody pulls it off better than you. I mean, the fact that you're not sponsored by Eddie Bauer blows my mind because nobody rocks a flannel like you. But I will say, like, as the night goes on, as our takes get hotter and hotter, we might start to see some unbuttoning
There we
of the
go.
flannel, but not yet. Just a little tease.
Yeah.
We're
Here we
just
go.
we're gonna put it back.
Yeah.
Because, but like as we start, we're going to talk about some serious stuff, Ryan. So you all might notice when I wear the Pit Vipers, it's going to be an unhinged show. Um, when I wear my smart people looking glasses that are not prescription, we have serious things to talk about. Ryan, I don't know if you've been on Twitter in the last week, um, but things in Broncos country are surprisingly bleak, considering that this team is 8-2 and just won a primetime game against a division opponent. Um, there's a lot of discussion about Bo Nix, and so that will take up the majority of our time tonight. And I know it's a played out topic, Ryan, but it's pretty much the main topic going on in Broncos country. So let's just get right into it. You know this game better than anybody. You know this team better than anybody. Cause for concern with Bo Nix. Like, where is your worry level at? Should this team, like some people in this very in the Let's Talk Broncos family, have suggested that maybe they're going to have to start searching for a new quarterback in 2027? What are your thoughts? Talk us through this.
So is that Zach or Joey that suggested it?
Neither.
Oh, so
Though I
Breen.
do understand,
No.
though I do understand why. Okay, we're gonna get off topic, but we're gonna do this really quick. Here's what I think is so funny, and why I totally understand why it's Zach, because Zach is just like Baby Albright, right? So they're very similar, and that's not anything. I'm not meaning to like discredit either one of them. I'm just saying that they are convicted in their beliefs. So the reason that you would think that it's Zach is because Zach did not like the Bo Nix pick when it happened. There's literally footage on Twitter and on the internet of his live reaction of not being happy. And really, ever since then, Zach has had the propensity to defend Sean Payton more than credit Bo Nix. Fair? So I can see why you would say that. And then what's interesting is with Ben, who again, I think the two are very similar. Ben is the opposite. Anything good that Sean Payton does, no, it's Vance Joseph. No, it's Bo Nix. Oh, well, it's A, B, C, and D. Like Sean Payton doesn't actually get any credit. He hasn't really done anything. It's pretty much everything else. And with Zach, it's, well, yeah, Bo Nix hasn't been good. Sean Payton's just been so good, and the defense has just been so good. So, yeah, we'll just clear the air there. It was neither. But yeah, sorry to cut you off. Continue.
No, well, first of all, before I proceed, I want to
Yeah.
say what an honor it is to be on one of the best Broncos podcasts in the market, especially in the week of your birthday. I was thrilled. My heart quite literally fluttered when you texted me earlier asking me to be on. So I'm pretty
This is
thrilled.
literally the best birthday present I could ask for. Is just looking at you and getting to talk ball with you.
I appreciate you having me on. No, man, listen, I know people are freaking out, and I do Broncos React as well after the games, and people.
Bless your heart for that.
What's that?
I said, bless your heart for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, but yeah, the fans were mixed, and that was a rough game from Bo Nix. I'm not worried. Not really worried. And I think part of that comes down to knowing that there isn't really an alternative. So it's like, well, what's there to worry about? And that's not even a slight at Jarrett Stidham or his family or otherwise. It's just an acknowledgement that Bo Nix is the best quarterback they have. They're 8-2. Whatever success they're going to have this year is going to be with Bo Nix. So the whole worried thing would be more of an off-season discussion, and we'll sort of see how that plays out from here. If they crash and burn down the stretch, which I don't believe they will. They're too good of a team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But just for argument's sake, say they do crash and burn. Well, then the offseason, that's going to be a conversation we'll get into. It's like, all right, well, what kind of assets do you have? Can you go get a quarterback? But right now, I think that's so far away. So there's really in my opinion, no need to worry about it. Sort of let a lot of it play out. And again,
seems really silly, right?
Yeah, well, it's not the most sexy way to frame it, right? Because I think that there's a lot of like hot takes flying around, and that's fun and that grabs the headlines. But like I said, the reality for me is we have seen some lows from Bo Nix, and we've seen some highs, and there's enough flashes there for me to believe that there's a talented, if not top 10, maybe especially 15. He's the top 5 in passing touchdowns right now. So just throwing that out there. Number 1 in sacks given up, whatever. But the point of it is there's a top 10 quarterback in there, as far as I'm concerned. And so if he can sort of realize and believe and become the thing that I think we've seen in spurts, then I think he'll eventually get there. And he might even be able to do that as soon as December. One thing that really jumps out to me, and I'll credit Zach on this, because Zach, although misguided sometimes, Zach brought up a really good point the other night. He said, coming out of the mini bye last year, remember the game against the New Orleans Saints was not a very good one for Bo Nix. I mean, he had like 75 yards rushing, but otherwise it wasn't anything where you saw the offense and thought that they were about to really take off. But then coming out of the bye, now they had a blip in there in between with the Baltimore Ravens. He had a receiving touchdown in that, and an interception. But otherwise, he had 11 touchdowns and 0 picks. So if you want to include the Baltimore Ravens game, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, and that's in the next 5 games. He sort of rattled off quite a few very impressive performances, including passing over 70% of the time. I truly believe, ultimately, that there was a mental and maybe physical fatigue that kind of hit this team all at the right time there on Thursday night. We had Garrett Bowles on the show today, and he, without me even bringing it up, he more or less confirmed it. He's like, I know Bo Nix is getting a lot of flack. I know that that our offensive performance is getting a lot of hits. He's like, but we had come to a long stretch, including a London trip without a bye week on the other side of it. And he's like, there was some fatigue. There's certainly some fatigue on our side. So he said this mini bye was at the perfect right time. I really believe that that Bo Nix and the offense are going to come out and they're going to look a lot better this week and going forward.
Do you feel confident in that, or do you think that's just player speak of like Garrett's doing a show on KOA now and helping to build his brand? And obviously, it's like if he's worried about Bo Nix, he's not going to say that he's worried about Bo Nix, right? So honestly, like, did it feel genuine, or was that more player speak? In your honest opinion?
No, it felt genuine because it was unprompted. Like, I didn't ask him, hey, what do you think contributed? In fact, I just asked him, what did you guys learn? That's all I asked him. I didn't say, hey, it was a bad performance. I didn't say anything. I just said, what did you guys learn from watching the film of the Broncos Raiders game? And
Okay.
he kind of went right into it. And so, maybe, but I feel like, you're around this game enough, and I know that you've been around it for a long time too. It's one of those things, like there's other things to say. You don't have to say that. You could say, hey, it's a divisional game, it's a short week. These games can be tough. Sometimes people think the offense is going to go off, and sometimes the defense for the other team, they get paid too. There's a bunch of cliches you can throw out there. But in the end, the fact that he brought that up, I thought that was a really important point, and it's kind of tied into what I felt like and what I felt like I was watching there in the game. And from what I know, kind of in internal workings of things, I think the guys are just beat. I think they're tired. It's been kind of a grueling schedule, and it's not an excuse. I mean, they're still winning, right? But it's not an excuse. It's more context, and I think context in these conversations really is important. So I do believe that when he buys at the right time, I think they can pour a lot of their resources and attention into this Kansas City game. They got to buy on the other side of this. They're about to go on another run here, and it's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. We're joined by what I can only imagine is Ben Albright's burner, Ryan. KW said Sean ruined Bo. Care to weigh in on that particular take?
I don't think Sean ruined Bo. I think there's some times that Sean could probably do more to help Bo. We were having a conversation today with Rod Smith on the show, and I'm not trying to name drop. That's not my thing. I'm just bringing in the example of talking.
Well, I mean, you've already dropped two big ones,
I know.
Ryan.
Well, it's just recent because of today's show.
I'm just saying. It's just today. Like this isn't like a monthly thing. Like, yeah, these are two guys I've spoken to in the last month. It's like, no, it was literally today. I talked to Garrett Bowles and Rod Smith. No big deal.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'll name drop someone later in the show.
Yeah. No, I listen. By all means, we'll get the cleaning crew in here and take care of things. But to clean up all these names. So no, I was talking to Rod and I said, do you think there's an argument for, like, with Bo Nix, is he better in structure or out of structure? And I was like, is there, Sean, I think to the point of what the message was, is like, does he ruin Bo? No, of course he didn't ruin Bo, but there are sometimes he holds on to the structure, I think, a little tight, where if he allowed Bo to sort of utilize his athleticism and his ability to play out of structure, I think that there would be a little bit of more ebb and flow between the two of them. Understanding that he's not Drew Brees and understanding that he's kind of processes things a little bit different. The best moments of Bo so far are the stuff that he does on instinct and the stuff that he's been doing in the fourth quarter. So trying to capture that in a bottle. And the best way I can do that is just say, okay, work with the structure, because, there's no way you can just go into a game with saying, hey, just figure it out as you go. But, find a way to create moments where he can just instinctually do something magic with the play. We also kind of compared, and it's not like a apples to apples. I'm not trying to say that Bo Nix and Patrick Mahomes are in the same category of quarterbacks, that they're not yet. But the point of it is like, we would be denied the brilliance of Patrick Mahomes if Andy Reid never let him work out of structure. If Andy Reid put the clamps on him every single time and said, no, I need you to operate from the pocket. I need you to go 1 to 2 to 3, and I need you to do it this way. And if you don't do it this way, then you're not my quarterback, and I'm going to plan a bunch of stories for you. I mean, like that would be the wrong way to approach it. And so
it's a shame he didn't do that, because they wouldn't have won 3 Super Bowls.
I know, right? Wouldn't that have been great if he was managed that way? But the thing is again, as a football fan, you appreciate the brilliance of it, and the only reason you get that brilliance is because Andy Reid is a really good coach, and he recognized that he had a talent that could operate in both. And I think Bo Nix can do that too. But I think you need a little more mix of the out of structure stuff in order to kind of get him going.
I agree 100%. And one of the things that I've kind of been thinking about, so obviously knows, like everyone knows, I'm a body worker. I deal with the the physical aspect of people. What a lot of people don't know is I actually have a psychology degree from the University of Colorado at Boulder. And so I like to think analytically about, the mental state of some of these players. We heard all about how cerebral Bo is. Like, the reason that Sean Payton fell in love with him was because of his brain, because of the way that he answered questions, his processing. But as we dig more into that, it's like, at times I feel like Bo, and then by extension, Sean, but Bo is too cerebral for his own good, to the point where you start overthinking things. Like, you're overthinking coverages, you're overthinking what you think the defense is going to do, you're overthinking what the protection should be. And I'm by no means saying that you shouldn't focus on those things, because obviously that's a big part of what a quarterback does. But when the offense is sluggish, when they can't get into a rhythm, to me, like, as I'm digging deeper, and we've touched on the human aspect of football and how the guys are tired, if we're going to extend that and discuss the human aspect of football more specifically, there's absolutely a human aspect to what Bo is going through. So obviously he knows he's not performing consistently the way that he needs to. He's trying to make things happen maybe in situations when he shouldn't. He's starting to press. And in my mind, like, having the psych degree that I have, Bo is overthinking and doing too much. So why is he so good in the fourth quarter? Why is he so good when the game is on the line? Why is it that he seems like he's able to flip a switch and be incredible when he needs to be? And maybe the reason that we didn't see that against the Raiders, because they were winning the entire fourth quarter. They didn't have to come back. He didn't have to be special. He didn't have to be perfect. And it's that in those situations, Ryan, my God, Bo, little Freudian slip there, my apologies. Bo is reactive. He's reacting to the situation. He's letting his instincts take over. He's kind of like almost putting his brain on the back burner. And he's like, all right, settle down, brain. There's too much going on here. I'm just going to go out and I'm just going to play the quarterback position. And sometimes it's that simple. Usually it's not, but I think in Bo's case, because again, that was what they raved about, like how smart he was, how cerebral he was, so much more so than you ever hear about rookie quarterbacks. I mean, look at Jackson Dart, who, if his brain doesn't turn to mashed potatoes before the end of the season, is a very likely candidate for rookie of the year. Was there anybody out there just parading around how unbelievably smart he was when it came to the X's and O's? No. Were people saying that about Cam Ward this year? No. Did you even really hear it about Caleb Williams or JJ McCarthy in that draft? No, absolutely not. So if that's the one advantage that Bo has, then he needs to capitalize on it. But I think, Ryan, that he falls back on that aspect too much. He's too smart for his own good. He's doing too much. And maybe that's why he's missing these easy throws. Like, we know he can make every throw. So, like, why are you missing a wide open guy in the flat? Why are you missing a 10-yard dig? Why are you missing a 5-yard out? It's not because you don't have the arm strength. It's not because you're like Tim Tebow, who physically struggles to do some of these things. I think he's so in his head that he's just like not doing the simple, basic things.
Yeah, I mean it does seem like the processor is overwhelmed a little bit there, right? And that's why, again, to your point, why the fourth quarter, we've seen some of those magic moments where he is working on instinct. He is working within just the urgency and desperation of the moment. You don't really have time to think about what you're doing. You just have to go ahead and do it. And if you were to sit there and plan it, well, then it probably wouldn't work out so well. So, and that's why I think he wants to work at tempo. Sean Payton gave us a little bit of a insight into Bo Nix's mind about a month ago, saying that he wants to work at tempo. And then Sean, of course, kind of said, well, I don't always want to work at tempo because it's going to gas my defense. And so that's funny and all. And I understand as the head coach, you certainly have to watch out.
What gasses the defense the most? Again, three and outs.
Yeah, having 9 3 and outs in a game. Just throwing that out there. But
yeah, just saying.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing, is like they have found ways to get some tempo. Like they'll get a first down and they'll immediately get to the line and they'll kind of go. And so there's moments where they're building some tempo in. There's just there needs to be a little bit more looseness. I think with some of the approach and giving him an opportunity to again be instinctual. One of the reasons why Jackson Dart is having the success is I think Brian Dable, who was his coach, utilized some of that athleticism and said, hey, listen, 1-2 and then run. And honestly, Josh McDaniels has said the same thing about Drake May, who's an MVP candidate. We're going 1-2. We're splitting the field 1-2 and then run. And it's working for him because he can play free. If my first read isn't there, my second read isn't there, guess what? I'm going to get whatever yardage I can and get down. And then we'll live to fight another day. Sean Payton, on the other hand, is like, I've got the smartest quarterback in the draft class. So guess what I'm going to do? I want you to go 1-2 to 3 to 4 And if you don't see it there, then and only then will we are going to allow you to take off and run. But then when you get to the fourth quarter, it doesn't always work like that. And your instincts have to take over, and you've seen him run a little bit more in the fourth quarter. So again, it's just kind of finding that balance. That's why ultimately, you're 8-2. So the panic and the frustration about what the offense looks like, they haven't played their best ball yet. There seems to be this chaos theory with the fan base that they'll never get there. And, on some level, I guess I can understand you're 11 weeks into the season. Maybe your fingerprint is what it is. But I do think that we've seen teams sort of turn it on in the right time when they're supposed to. Play your best ball in late December and January. You don't need to play your best ball at the beginning of November. All you got to do is find a way to win that game in front of you. You don't have to apologize for the teams that you're beating. You just have to continue to stack wins and find ways to improve. And so if they can learn something from these wins, that's a brilliant thing. And they'll have an opportunity in late December to be playing a home playoff game in January as a result.
And Brian, weren't people saying the exact same thing about the 2015 Super Bowl team? I mean, I remember. Now, granted, there were way fewer Broncos podcasts in what's now a very saturated market. So there wasn't quite so many hot takes, not quite so many, over exaggerations. But I vividly remember that 2015 season where it's like every single week, Ryan, fans were saying they can't keep winning like this. They barely beat the Browns in Cleveland. It took a pick six. The defense can't keep bailing them out. They made the playoffs. They were the number one seed. Wow, it's not sustainable. They're not going to be able to win that way in the playoffs. They're not going to be able to win with Peyton Manning playing that way. Peyton Manning has arguably the worst statistical career of any quarterback that's ever won a Super Bowl. And what happened, Ryan? They just kept winning that way. And you're saying, play the game in front of you. You can't control who you play. And if you need further proof of that, go look at what the Kansas City Chiefs did last season. They were not impressive at all. They did not blow out anybody. They never had this massive margin of victory. And honestly, the reason that they won a lot of those games, of course, was because of the officials. But it doesn't matter because you find a way. Were the Kansas City Chiefs getting chastised last season when they had to beat the Carolina Panthers on a last-second field goal? No. But the narrative with that team, Ryan, was, well, they're winners, and that's what winners do. Things don't go their way, and they find a way to win. So what are we talking about? It's like that HR meme where the handsome guy comes in talking to the girl and was like, hey, what's up, baby? How you doing? And she's like, oh, my. And then the big fat guy walks in and he's like, hey, baby, you look good. She's like, HR, please save me. That's exactly what it is. So hold this team to the same standard. And at the end of the day, and I went on a rant about this on last week's show, Ryan, because I was so irritated and I literally did it in the car the other day. It's like, you have a football team that's 8-2 that is in sole possession of first place in the AFC West, something that they have not been able to say that they've done since 2015, since the last time that they won the Super Bowl. And what I said last week is, let's say you get to the first round of the playoffs, whether you have a bye week or not, regular season is over, you're in the playoffs. Let's say they're 12-5 or 13-4, whatever it might be. Do we really think at that point in the season that fans are going to look back and they're going to say, yeah, we're in the playoffs. We won 13 games. That's cool. But, we barely beat the Jets. This record's great, but we barely beat the Raiders. Remember that? Like, Bo Nix didn't look good against the Raiders. No! They're going to be psyched that the team has 12, 13 wins, that they're the number 2 or hopefully the number 1 seed in the playoffs. So this is the thing that drives me crazy, and I'm so glad that you brought it up because at the end of the day, it only matters if you freaking win. There's do you think anybody would care if they won a Super Bowl 3-0? I mean, I'm sure all of America would care because it would be the worst Super Bowl ever, a la the Rams Patriots a few years ago. Patriots fans didn't care that they won 10-3 or 10-6 or whatever. They cared that they got another one of these. And that's all that matters. So people can keep saying, well, they can't keep winning like this. They can't keep winning like this. I got news for you. They keep winning like this. And until that's no longer the case, we don't really have anything to complain about.
I could have said it better myself, although I will say that the fun part of Sports Talk Radio and, of course, the podcast is talking about the style points. But big picture, macro, everything you said is absolutely correct. I said it in Broncos React, similar to what you just said. I said when we get to late December and the Broncos are vying for either the 1 seed or a home field with the AFC West, you're not going to remember the style points of the Broncos Raiders or the Broncos and Jets. You're just going to say, I'm sure glad we have those AFC West and AFC conference wins. That's really all that's going to matter, because it's going to matter for the tiebreakers. So yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. But again, this is one of the things that I do love about the medium, right? Where we get a chance to sort of dissect the finer points. So that's one of the things, like on Broncos React, for example, like, hey, if you want to call in and complain about the offense, like, yeah, whatever. I mean, you want to complain about them being first in penalties? That's a problem. That is an issue. Okay, go for it. Because the finer details, while the process is playing out, is important. But once again, you get to do it all in wins, and so you get to say, well, it hasn't bit them yet. And I loved your point about not only the 2015 team, but last year specifically about the Kansas City Chiefs. It was like 11 games that they won by 1 score. This year they're 0-4.
It felt like all of them. It felt like every single game they got by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, this year they're 0-4. The Broncos are 6-2. I mean, the Chiefs would love to be where the Broncos are at. I mean, like every team. It's just an acknowledgement, though, that the league's weird and the ball does bounce sometimes in your favor and sometimes against. Last year they were 1-6 in 1-score games. They couldn't buy closeout moments like that. Things would happen where they'd have a field goal blocked against the Kansas City Chiefs when they did everything right to put themselves in position to win that game. Now, they've converted those field goals this year. They got a little unlucky against the Colts, but just generally speaking, you feel pretty good about that, about the way that they're closing that out. And in the end, you kind of make your own luck. And that's where the whole, like, they can't keep doing this. And it's like, well, they're creating their own luck. They're creating their own momentum. And they do it in every single game. I mean, even in the Raiders game, they got down early in that game. They obviously came back, but they had a 4.5-minute drive. With everything else that went wrong in that Raiders game and how ugly it was, getting booed by the fans, that offense put together a 4.5-minute drive to close the game and not give the ball back to the Raiders to have a chance to tie it or a chance to take the lead and put that tired defense back out there on the field. They closed it out. They did the right thing. And that's what you're supposed to do. That's what championship teams do. Now, again,
isn't that proof of growth?
Yeah.
Like, if like in layman's terms, if you want to see growth from Bo Nix and from Sean Payton and from this team in general, that's it, Ryan. They were a playoff team last year, despite being terrible in 1-score games, and they will be a playoff team this year and be much better in 1-score games. And if people are getting so wound up, Ryan, over like the lack of growth with Bo Nix, or they wanted him to take an even bigger step, I mean, that's where we should start, right? I know that they say that wins are not a quarterback stat, but when it really comes down to brass tacks, Ryan, it's like, that's exactly how a quarterback is always going to be judged. 100%. Like, the reason that Dan Marino is never considered the GOAT is because he didn't win a Super Bowl. Arguably the greatest statistical quarterback of all time, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And because he didn't win a Super Bowl, he's never even remotely in the conversation. If you hypothetically say that Dan Marino has 2 Super Bowl wins, John Elway has none, and you flip those, but everything else is the same, Dan Marino is consistently in the breath that, maybe he's the greatest of all time. John Elway is not considered top 10. So even though those were team wins, and it was a winning stat, that gets put on the quarterback. And the team is winning, especially in the moments when they need to. Bo Nix has been nails in the 4th quarter. Is that not proof of growth? Bo Nix wasn't consistently doing that last season when the game was on the line. That's all I need to see right now. You can worry about the other stuff next year, as far as I'm concerned.
Nailed it. Yeah. And I got into a bit of a rant today on the show about quarterback wins, because that's where, because Ben Solak wrote an article today on ESPN and he kind of eviscerated Bo Nix, but that's like nothing new for Ben.
Ben Solak is the biggest, dweebiest little dork that thinks he knows so much more than he does. I don't know who decided to give that dweeb a platform, because half of what he says is just clickbait bullshit. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I love when the inner monologue comes out. That's one of my favorite Marios.
That was supposed to be in my head. And again, I'm wearing the smart guy glasses. I don't have the pit vipers on. That was super out of line.
We could edit this, right? This isn't live. So we just.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
that up.
I don't think that Benjamin Solak is a talentless hack who should, maybe stick to something else, like maybe coloring inside the lines. I'm not at all saying that.
Yeah. I but anyway, so I was going well done. I was going off a little bit about some of his some of the logical leaps that he took. And we got into a little bit of a quarterback wins, which I do believe is a bit of a flawed stat, but in the end, we talk about it all the time, right? So we can say both are true, right? You can say, well, a quarterback wins it's a team win, and certainly a good defense is helping Bo Nix and the offense and a good offensive line and a good running game. That all helps to the win. But simultaneously, if you don't have that guy that can execute at that level, then you're not going to win games either. So it is a chicken or egg kind of discussion, but I do think it matters in some of the context of the discussion we're getting into. And he's got more wins than any of the quarterbacks in that draft class. So that doesn't have to be like the end all be all as he's listing out all the stats and reasons why Bo Nix sucks. It's not to say like, well, guess what? He's got more wins. But I do think that a lot of the stats that he was laying out really don't take into account some of the special that he has brought to the team, that he hasn't been a passenger in this entire process, which is sort of what the picture was painted as. And then, again, I hate the logical leap of sometimes analysts get into this, especially draft nicks, because they think, well, I have this guy as a second round or a third round grade. A team reached on him. So I'm going to really basically judge everything based on my own read of this player.
That's exactly what it is.
And so then what happens is you're looking for confirmation bias. And that's kind of what basically the entire article was, is like, well, I got a bunch of stats to confirm why I never thought this guy was a guy that should have been drafted, as we're talking in week 10 of his second fucking year. Like that for me is one of the most insane, ridiculous, logical leaps I've ever seen. And he's sitting there basically painting the rest of his career right in front of our eyes, saying, hey, the Broncos reached on this. I told y'all they reached on this. Meanwhile, he's 8-2 and atop the AFC. The NFL. He has the best record in the NFL. So miss me.
And by the way, compared to all the other quarterbacks in that class, more touchdowns than any other quarterback in the class. So if we don't want to talk about wins, if you want to discredit the fact that he took a team that was considered by Benjamin Solak among other people to have a bottom 5 roster in the league, Bo Nix was so good that he took a bottom 5 roster to the playoffs for the first time in a decade. Now, like you said, hasn't been 8-2. And oh, by the way, is responsible for more touchdowns than any other quarterback in his class. And we're not going to worry about any of that because you're too worried about getting butthurt over the fact that you were wrong that Bo Nix was a second-round quarterback. And I think, like, what really gives him ammo, Ryan, last year Jaden Daniels was better. I know that there were Bronco fans trying to rationalize it. They're like, well, he was responsible for more passing touchdowns. Jaden Daniels was better than Bo Nix last year. This year, Daniels has been hurt a lot. When Daniels has played, Bo Nix has been better than Jaden Daniels. But I think the problem is, like, last year it was Jaden Daniels 1, Bo Nix 2, 3 for 6, fill in the blanks. This year, it's very noticeably Drake May. Drake May is better than Bo Nix right now. And that's okay. I think pretty much everybody who studied quarterbacks, and even those who didn't, thought that Drake May would be a better NFL quarterback. That doesn't mean that Bo Nix isn't going to be a very good NFL quarterback. Drake May is unbelievable. But Drake May right now is 1, Bo Nix is 2, 3 through 6, fill in the blanks. So he stayed right there at that second slot. But you're not going to convince me that Michael Penix Jr. or J.J. McCarthy are anywhere near where he's at right now. Jaden Daniels has regressed massively. Again, a lot because of the injury, but that's part of the game. And you're not going to convince me that Caleb Williams is better than Bo Nix right now, considering all the weapons that he has and the offensive genius that they brought in to be the head coach, who famously was with the Lions for all of their upheaval years. So, like, what are we really talking about, man? Like, it pissed me off, and I was not wanting to get pissed off, but now I'm pissed off. So here we are. The kind of mental gymnastics that you have to do to discredit a quarterback from his class who was responsible for more wins, responsible for more touchdowns, responsible for the complete turnaround of a franchise that had been starved for a playoff win for a decade, a proud franchise that had never gone half that long missing the playoffs. And you're going to discredit all of that for what? Your nerdy ass little advanced analytics, and just to avoid getting your feelings hurt because you were wrong about something? He's a bitch. Yeah, I said the quiet part out loud again, but he's a bitch. That's a bitch move.
Yeah, and one thing I did say about the advanced analytics of it, and like the stats of the stats, I do think that you can sometimes frame them right, and so he's laying out EPA stats and yeah, that's great. That's
Well
great.
done, David.
Yeah, that's great stuff, David. Yeah, he's laying out those stats, but again, they're all kind of they're supposed to be used in context of the entire scope, and
Cherry
again,
picked.
it is a little bit, and it's cherry picked after his worst game, right? It's like he almost
Yes.
couldn't wait to write that article. Like as soon as
He waited
Thursday night
all
happened,
season for Bo to have a bad
yeah,
enough game. Yeah.
yeah, he's been waiting all season for him to have a bad enough game. He couldn't write it after the Texans game because it's like, well, the Texans are a good defense. This won't hit as hard until I write it after that game. And so as soon as Thursday night happened, he's like, oh man, finally, I get a chance to pile on this kid. And so, hey, listen, man, that's your style. You've built a career out of it. You're working at ESPN. I'm happy for you on that. But also, it just looks like a troll job, and that's ultimately what it looks like. And it looks like you look petty in the process. So that was kind of a little bit of my rant today.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I say that's just a little bit of my rant today. Is like
good.
The stats are the stats. Bo Nix needs to play better. I'm not going to defend that he doesn't need to play better. He does, but give the rest of the story, and then don't take the logical leap. And basically at the very end of it, he's like, he doesn't have enough talent to be taken in the first round. He doesn't have enough talent to be on the same tier as Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May. He did like to say that after we've seen the reclamation projects that we've seen in Baker and Sam. And you go down the list. I'm blanking some names right now. Even Mac Jones,
Geno Smith, Daniel Jones.
Smith. Yeah, Daniel. Oh my God, Daniel Jones. Exactly. We've seen all these reclamation project quarterbacks that have gotten second and third chances and gotten better coaching, been with better organizations, and found a way to be not only productive but become franchise guys for some of these teams. And then you're going to sit there and say, no. After a year and a half, I already know where this shit's going. After a year and a half, I have, in my infinite wisdom, decided that this guy is just not in the same class as these other quarterbacks. Meanwhile, as you perfectly laid out, Jaden Daniels is not having a very good season, regardless of the injuries. He was not having a great season. Caleb Williams has taken a step forward. They've done a lot to help him take that step forward. And Drake May obviously took a really big step forward. Actually, Drake May is the most impressive jump of all of these. I mean, it's nice to have Josh McDaniels as the guy that develops you, but oftentimes when you reset coaches, you reset the development, and instead he took a massive leap forward. So Drake May really is impressive to me for a multitude of reasons, because most of the time quarterbacks aren't able to do what he's doing. But everybody else is kind of what they've been, except for Jaden has taken a step back. And what the very last thing, what the funniest part was, as he's trying to make his case, most of the stats he's bringing up were basically in line with what he did last year. It's basically like the same. He's like, hey, he's taking a step back here, and it's like the smallest effing decimal different than what it was before. And I'm just like, okay, what is even this article other than just a practice in your own self-flagellation? That's what it felt like.
I'm really glad that Marky brought this up, because he was reading my mind here, because I actually pulled up the box score for the Eagles-Packers game, and I was going to say, and then I kind of accidentally cut you off, but I was going to say, when are we getting Solak's article about Jordan Love? And I will say this, as it stands right now, Jordan Love is a better quarterback than Bo Nix. Certainly, in my opinion, I think a lot of people would agree. Again, not a slight on Bo. Jordan's been after this longer. He has unbelievable talent. They're close. And I think, like, certainly in a couple of years, I anticipate Bo Nix ascending, but there are plenty of people that think Jordan Love is a top 10 quarterback, honestly, myself included. But this past Monday night at home against the same Philadelphia Eagles that Bo Nix beat in Philadelphia, Jordan Love was 20 of 36, 176 yards, sacked 3 times. Accounted for no touchdowns, had 5 carries for 28 yards. And you could argue he has himself some pretty damn good weapons in Green Bay, so we can't blame that. It's the same exact defense. So when are we getting that? I'm sorry, Jordan Love, that you're catching strays. I really like Jordan Love. But I want to exemplify like how beyond silly this discourse has become. Like, could you imagine writing a slam piece, like a slanderous article, after every single quarterback had a bad game against the team? I mean, I'm not going to waste everyone's time and pull up the stats, but it's like, what about when Patrick Mahomes came to Denver a couple of years ago, and it was when the Broncos finally beat the Chiefs after however many times they had lost to him in a row. I think he lost 2 fumbles. I think he threw 2 or 3 interceptions, and they got absolutely kicked in the nuts. Like, the game was never really close. Like, it was always at hand. I mean, God, they lost to Russell Wilson, for God's sakes. Very few people have done that over the last few years. Was there a slam piece on Patrick Mahomes where it's like, oh, well, the magic is fading. You know, people are starting to figure him out. And again, I'm not trying to compare. I'm trying to explain how silly it is what he has done. And the one strategic thing about it, Ryan, that I will say is, and this makes it disingenuous, but it's strategic what he did, because people are either going to agree with him, because you're going to get there's plenty of people that didn't like Bo Nix coming out who had the second round grade on him, and they are so desperate to be right. And Bo Nix did him no favors last season. He did him no favors. He should have been in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. Didn't deserve to win it, but deserved to be in the conversation, deserved to put his name in the hat. So they weren't able to use last season at all. Took that team to the playoffs, had an unreal statistical year for a rookie that was a projected second round pick. And like you said, been waiting, and finally has that noteworthy bad game on his 27th career game. And we're already going to slander him. And it's like, I just want people to understand how ridiculous it is. Because Ryan, every single week, you could do that about another quarterback. You'd be like, oh, Josh Allen completed 50% of his passes. That's exactly what my problem was with him at Wyoming. He only completed like 57 or 53 or whatever percent of his passes when he was at Wyoming. That's exactly the problem. Like, it's all downhill from here. But it's clickbaity. He knows that the people that agree with him are going to be like, yep, see, this is exactly what I thought. I thought the exact same thing, and I don't like Bo Nix either. And then on the other side of the coin, he's going to get overly emotional Bronco fans who are going to have such a personal problem and take it so personally that they go on to their podcast that probably shouldn't exist, and they rant about why he's a bitch for 20 minutes. This is probably exactly what he wants, and I'm giving it to you. You're welcome, Ben Solak, you little bitch. Anyway, the credit that I will give to him is, like, he knew exactly what he was doing. Yeah. People would either vehemently agree or disagree because it's polarizing. But regardless, people are going to tune in. And that's exactly what they've done. And I fell victim to it too.
Yeah, I know. And I try my best not to. It's the same with like Nick Wright, right? Like, you just know that it's all designed to get attention.
Exactly.
And, he'll put out there the Broncos are going to be 6-5 at their bye, knowing full well it's probably not going to happen. And then you're going to quote tweet his video and slam him for it because you should, because that stuff does need to be called out. But then simultaneously he's just sitting there like, thank you, I was very generous of you to share my voice with your listeners. So it is a bit of a catch-22 right now.
Great.
But also, I do think that if you stay silent about it and you say nothing about it, then there's a certain amount of agreeing with it, right? Being
exactly,
and allowing that to be the narrative. And so
complacency breeds contempt.
That's right. And so there will be Broncos fans that are going to read that and say, well, Ben Solak told me that Bo Nix is terrible. And it's like, all right, well, I mean, If
Well,
you
Mario
literally read
Vitanzi
that,
told you that he's not. Mario
yeah,
Vitanzi also said that he's a. I don't want to keep calling him that word.
I mean,
Mario
you kind of
Vitanzi
want
said he
to.
doesn't like Ben Solo.
Yeah. So, like I said, I amplified some of his stuff today. I didn't love necessarily doing that, but I it was is for a larger scope. It was for the larger audience. I mean, again, I love the draft just like you love the draft. We love studying the prospects and getting excited about who could be a good fit for your team, so on and so forth. But part of the rant today also was like, hey, we get to analyze and we get to break this thing down from our vantage, but at no point do I ever assume I know more than the team that has to spend billions of dollars and they are worth
Yes.
billions of dollars.
Yes.
Whereas that was a conclusion that he jumped to, like, hey, it's a magical fairy tale that the Broncos convinced themselves that Bo Nix was the next Drew Brees, and it's like, all right, man, but also Sean Payton really believes in this guy. He's willing to bet his legacy on this guy. That's interesting to me. And you know, as somebody that's just a casual football fan or even a hardcore football fan that covers the team, that's kind of cool. And so far be it for me to sit there and say, hey, I think Sean doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. We could talk about that, but more than likely he probably does. And guess what? He gets to be right or he gets to be wrong. And at that point, we get a chance to either say, I told you so, or we, you were right all along, Sean. And guess what? We probably won't know that for a few years anyways. So I don't know. Enjoy the ride.
Exactly. David, I'd like to apologize for not highlighting this earlier. Shout out David Talks Broncos for the super chat. I'll pose this to you, Ryan. I'm sure you're aware of the A.T. Perry lore that exists within altitude adjustment. Does Bandy being cut indicate that A.T. Perry finally being elevated? Give us the answer we want to hear. And just for that, we undid a button. A.T. Perry gets me hot.
Yeah. No, I wish it did. No, don't button. Stop. No.
What do you mean, no?
I mean, it basically means that Marvin Mims is back, and they were desperate for depth at offensive tackle with Matt Peart being down. So they've been running really thin at that position for a while. And then injuries forced them to stay thin, probably there longer than they wanted to. They didn't have a backup left tackle. Like, they have not had a backup left tackle for a while now with Matt Peart going down.
Yeah.
So, I think the move today was sort of like an acknowledgement of, let's just be grateful that we weren't having problems at this position, and we'll go ahead and sneak this guy. We'll get this guy off the Cowboys practice squad, and because we have Marvin Mims coming back, and he's going to be good to go. Which, by the way, low key, the offensive issues, especially the last couple of weeks, between Nate Atkins and Marvin Mims, I think we need to have a more serious conversation about how big a deal those guys are to the offense. And I know the Texans are a good defense and all, but like, the offense definitely had some issues that we hadn't seen, at least, like, as far as feeling like the spacing wasn't as good. There's guys running in the same spot. I mean, we saw that in the Raiders game. So I'm
Marvin Mims opens things up for the offense. And Nate Atkins is one of those kind of like unsung heroes where his value extends far beyond the stat sheet. And honestly, same with Marvin Mims. Like, everybody knows Mims is the playmaker. Like, Franklin is turning into a nice deep threat. He's starting to come around. Mims is the guy that you account for. He's your X factor. He's your playmaker. And yeah, I think that's massive. And I'm really excited to see the difference that it makes, because that's something that you don't, you're not too worried about it, right, Ryan? It sucks losing Marvin Mims, but it's like he's used so inconsistently and kind of all over the place that you're like, oh, yeah, well, it shouldn't affect the offense too much. Apparently it has. And apparently we were not putting nearly enough respect on Marvin Mims' name. Speaking of the upcoming game, Deadly Passages wants to say, I was going to say wants to know. He didn't ask a question. It's going to be tough with three of our main starters injured. So obviously, first and foremost, shout out to Alex Singleton. Like, unbelievable. I mean, say what you ever want with him, and he's taking a bit of a beating on the show. I'm going to be the first to say it, as a football fan / analyst. But my God, like, the dude played 3 quarters last year with the torn ACL against Tampa Bay. and then played an entire game knowing that, he was diagnosed with testicular cancer.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it seemed like they caught it quickly, but like as the game of his life. I mean, the best game that he has played all season. Like the last couple of weeks, he's looked like an entirely different person. So go ahead and get yourself checked, men. Quick PSA, real serious, for real. If you're worried at all, go talk to a doctor. That was the great thing about Alex Singleton. Like he was very lucky, got caught early for a random drug test. So, if you're worried, if you have a family history of it, make sure that you're getting checked. But now all of a sudden that looks like it's gonna be a big loss, Ryan. J.K. Dobbins, I know they said it's still kind of up in the air. We don't really know what's gonna happen, but it sounds like it might be a short-term IR. Hopefully not. It definitely seems unlikely that he's playing against Kansas City, and then obviously, Surtain is out until probably the Commanders game. So, Ryan, I said on the show last week, and this was before they even beat the Raiders, and we were just kind of assuming that they would, which they did. The winner of this game is going to win the division, right? Like we can pretty much agree to that. If the Broncos beat the Chiefs, like they're not winning the division as a 5-loss team at 5-5. And if the Chiefs beat the Broncos, it just feels like the beginning of the typical Kansas City Chiefs run. And I'd be shocked if the winner, like I don't think the Chargers are going to win the division regardless. The Chargers are going to Charger. This is the most important regular season game the Broncos have played in a decade. So how do they win this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. I'm not going to say it's not. So two things. So first of all, with the starters, yeah, Dre Greenlaw getting in 62% of the snaps this last week is a good sign. So he might be ready to get a much bigger role. They barely played Justin Strnad in the game. So I think that you're going to have a lot more Strnad. You're going to have a lot more Dre Greenlaw. Maybe you're playing a little bit more dime, getting Jahdae Barron out there a little bit more. You'll find a way to make it work. And Alex, I hopefully will be back. I imagine they'll hope to try to aim to have him back for the Washington Commanders, but maybe the week after that, something along those lines. I think Pat probably will be back by the Commanders game, though it'll be interesting to see the practice reports this week, see if he tries to push because he knows that this is an important game. And then J.K. Dobbins, that's going to be tough. But, you drafted a second-round guy in R.J. Harvey for a reason. He's been growing in confidence. There's no denying that fact. He's growing in confidence, especially in the passing game. If you feel like, you can make this thing work for a game or two. I mean, the reality is if it is just a grade 1, he might be back by the Commanders game, even though he's got to wear the apparatus. He might be available for that. If nothing else, maybe the game after that. But that's kind of the hope. And they didn't put him on IR for a reason. Like they had an opportunity to put Karene Reed on IR today. Speaking of the inside linebackers, that is to your depth. But yeah, you had a chance to put him on IR today and you didn't. So I take that as a bit of a positive sign. As far as the Chiefs
Real
go,
quick, Ryan, who wears the green dot?
That's a great question. My guess would be Brandon Jones. Will probably be the guy. I mean, I guess Hufanga would be a conversation, but Brandon's been here longer, so that'd be my first nomination. I guess you go Strnad too. He's got a lot of experience in the defense. So you have some options. Dre would be the guy probably next year to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But like this year, I especially since he hasn't been a full-time player, I think that you probably go with guys that have that experience with it. So Brandon Jones, Justice Strnad would probably be my first two options, and then I, maybe look at Hufanga just because of his leadership role on the team. But yeah, the Chiefs are going to be, I mean, it's going to be a tough game. Even if you had all of your guys, right? There's this team. I actually am not too worried. I actually think they're going to probably win this game. And I know that it's kind of a weird deal because why should I have optimism? They just played the Raiders and it was an ugly game. But I told you at the very beginning, Bo Nix out of the mini bye was a different quarterback, and he went on a run from there. I do think that the mental and physical fatigue did impact this team. The point I wanted to make really quickly, though, is you said that it's kind of like this game decides the division. I agree and I don't agree. And I'm not trying to be argumentative on purpose. It's just to say you still have 6 more games after this.
Be argumentative, Ryan. Say what you got to say. Say it with your chest.
You still got six more games after this. There's a lot that can happen to both teams. If
say it with your chest.
If the Broncos lose this game and then win out, well, then this game was not a big deal, right? I mean, even if they win at Arrowhead.
Yeah,
by the way, I'm just saying,
I know.
I'm saying, like, I guess I don't subscribe to the must-win conversation until it's mathematically a must-win, and maybe that's
you're not hyperbolic like me.
Yeah, well, but you're not alone. I mean, I see it out there, and there will be a lot of people that if they do lose this game, there's going to be this narrative written about the Broncos as being frauds, and this is exactly like the Ben Solaks, right, who've been waiting for the Broncos to fail to finally write that think piece about the Broncos being frauds. Well, there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of people that are waiting for this team to lose a game, finally to lose a game, which they will eventually probably lose a game, to say, I told you so. I told you this team couldn't keep winning like this. Okay, yes, you're right. Eventually they are going to probably lose a game. And they might even lose a game where they had the lead all the way into the fourth quarter. But or they were
already did that technically.
Yeah, or they try to mount a comeback and come up short, right? That's going to happen. It just is. It's what the league is. But my point of it is like, as important as this game is, and it is important. You definitely want to have it. It'd be great to go into the bye 9-2. You'd have a stranglehold on the division, no doubt about that. You still got a lot of football left after the bye, and you have an opportunity to scratch off even more wins. And who knows? The Chiefs, meanwhile, they stubbed their toe. Like I said, they're 0-4 in one-score games. They've played down to their opponents, much like the Broncos have at times. So I don't assume anything, even if they lose this game. But I do think I like their chances even down those starters coming up on Sunday, despite what we saw against the Raiders game.
You think, last question, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. Do you think that the narrative changes at all regarding Bo Nix based on his play? Or is it going to be one of these situations where people are so dug in that they're going to do their same mental gymnastics just to justify it? So if Bo Nix has a fantastic game, it's going to be, well, Sean Payton just simplified things for him, and it was Sean Payton, and defense put him in a good position, and the running game was good. Or is it finally going to change? I guess my question in general is, like, is there anything that can happen specifically that would get people out of their cemented mindset they have, the people like Benjamin Solak? Or is it just like you're too far gone and people are going to believe whatever they want to believe when it comes to Bo Nix or Sean Payton or what have you?
I mean, it's a really good question. I'd say that it's not going to be one game. It's going to have to be sustained performance over I don't know how long. Like, if they are able to take a run to the wild, or let's say they take a run to the conference finals this year. Okay, let's just for argument's sake, they make a run all the way to the conference finals, and he plays ridiculous. Like he just plays incredible the whole way through. There'll be a little bit more benefit of the doubt because on a one-off, people will go back and forth on who is really to blame or who is really to give kudos to. So if it's good performance, it's like, well, Sean did a great job, or the running game, or the defense, or whatever. But if he sustains a certain level of play, and he can keep that up all the way, riding that deep into the playoffs, then there's going to a certain extent, there's an undeniability to it. But some people, to your point, may still say, well, let's see it again next year. And they'll keep doing that for a year or two or three. And unfortunately, that's just sort of what's going to follow you until you kind of maybe win a championship, and you do it because you played at a high level, and then maybe some of those narratives get shifted. But until then, it just doesn't seem possible.
Fair enough. Last thing before you go out, Ryan, it is time for everybody's favorite segment, the segment that is being called the best segment in all of Denver sports podcasting. This is Bricked Up.
Bricked
Ryan, what has you bricked up?
Well, that flannel shirt is pretty. No, just kidding. I love by the end of it why you've completely just got open. It just is so subtle throughout. Like you just subtly.
You got to cover
like,
the dark meat.
as if
Sorry.
as if I didn't notice it. I tell you what, man. Sitting atop the AFC in Week 11 is pretty freaking awesome. Like you think about expectations for every season, and certain things going right or wrong or whatever. There's no scenario you could have painted in my mind. As much as I believed in a lot of the processes and the talent of the team, that they'd be atop the AFC or at least tied for atop the AFC by Week 11. That would have I would have had a hard time putting that all together, knowing that you had the Eagles in there, you had the London trip, which is always kind of a weird deal. There's several opponents. Houston is tough. There's some tough opponents in there. Nothing given, right? So to proudly with my chest say the Denver Broncos are tied for number 1 in the NFL. That's pretty freaking awesome, and that has me bricked up.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what has me bricked up as I change this background to, well, that's supposed to be heaven. Because I'm in heaven doing this, Ryan. You pointed out yesterday was my birthday. It was my 9th annual 29th birthday. And I shout out and appreciate everybody who reached out to me, including you, Ryan, excluding Ben, who's a terrible friend. But I digress. Nah, man, I'm bricked up that I can be joined, and I'm not being hyperbolic here. I'm bricked up over the fact that I can be joined by the Ryan Edwards, in my personal opinion, the best thing going in all of Denver sports media. And he won't agree with it because of that level of humility. But that's the first thing that has me bricked up. That's what has me in heaven. It was time for a hot take. You know what has me really bricked up? That this team is 8-2 and people want to still talk shit about the quarterback. I love that. I love that they're talking shit about the quarterback. I love that no-name nobodies like Benjamin Solak who couldn't, who I don't want to be too mean again. I was already mean. Okay. I don't want to do this. So I'm just going to, we're just going to go to a different direction with this. I'm bricked up over the fact that we are relevant enough to hate on our quarterback. If this team was 2-8, 5-5, 4-6, nobody's talking crap about Bo Nix. They're just like, eh. Is anybody talking crap about Michael Penix Jr.? No, because the Atlanta Falcons are not a legit contender. Is anybody talking crap about God? Who's the kid in New Orleans? Rattler. Is anybody talking about Spencer Rattler? Be like, oh yeah, he was so much better than I thought, or oh man, like they shouldn't have even drafted him at all. He was terrible. No, why? Because the Saints are nothing. The Falcons are nothing. It is nice that people want to see Bo Nix fail. You know why? Because they're winning. And people are mad that the Broncos are winning. If they were a nothing team, if they weren't real contenders, people wouldn't care about Bo Nix. But because of where Sean Payton has this team, because of where Bo Nix has this team, and most importantly, where the defense and Vance Joseph, who should be the assistant coach of the year, if that's even a thing, the coordinator of the year, has this team. The haters are real, and the haters come all the way out of the rafters when you win. You don't have haters when you suck. You don't have haters when you're a shitty football team. You have haters when you're 8-2 and you have tied for the best record in the entire NFL. When you're at the top, people try to tear you down. And that's why I'm bricked up, because we are dealing with irrational haters who don't want to believe that this is a real contender, who want to say that you can't keep winning games like this. Well, guess what? They keep winning games like this. And until they stop winning games like this, we are going to ride this high. And that's what has me bricked up. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me. I love you with the entirety of my heart. As if people don't know, just in case people are living under a rock, where can they find your incredible content? And if anybody's not convinced that you are the best in the business at what you do, enlighten them so that they can find out for themselves.
I love you too, brother. I appreciate you having me on. So I do afternoons with Dave Logan on KOA from 3 to 6, and then I do the Broncos pre and post game on the Broncos Radio Network. So you can check me out there on KOA.
Fantastic. I love you so much, Ryan. I can't thank you enough for joining me. Hopefully I'll be joined next week by Pat, and we will continue to let this rig roll, and hopefully we will be talking about a monumental Broncos win that I think is a massive deal and Ryan does not think is remotely a big deal at all. But that's why I had Ryan on, so that he can enlighten me and make me a better, smarter football fan. Really quick, Ryan, before we get out of here, we're going to go to Sean Payton. Coach Payton, what did you think of the show?
Oh, gosh, your own little internet shows are driving me crazy.
Okay, well, we tried our best, Sean. Fucking, this is Altitude Adjusted. Bye-bye, everybody. Love you.